Hello and welcome to another Facebook Live on one of the 5 business blockers that I think most people struggle with when they're just getting started with their business. So if you watched yesterday, you'll know that I was talking yesterday all about your niche and the struggle of finding the right niche for your business when you're just getting started. So if you missed that one, do go back and have a look. It is something that can cause a real block. I know for me personally, until I got really clear on what my niche was, I struggled with everything: my branding, my messaging, my content, and even what products and services to create. And it was a massive business breakthrough for me when I did actually finally get clear on that. Now, today's business blocker that I'm talking about is all about planning and prioritization. So one of the most common things that people say to me is, I just want to know what I should be focusing on next. I just need someone to give me a plan, and it's all about really not knowing what to prioritize, what you should be focusing on, and what is the right thing to be doing next with your business. And I totally understand why that is such a massive blocker, because let's face it, when you're just getting started, the first thing you tend to do is go into research mode and you look online to see how to start a business. What are the things I need to be doing? And you are faced with this kind of avalanche of content. And basically you've got all these voices saying, well, you must have a website, you must be blogging, you've got to be doing Facebook Lives. I hope you're doing Facebook Lives, or you're really missing out. And you are on Instagram, aren't you? And I suppose you're making videos. YouTube, the second biggest search engine after Google. So, hugely missing out if you're not making videos and, being active on YouTube. What about your email list? Have you built your email list yet? And Facebook ads, of course, you've got to be doing Facebook ads. And so it goes on and on and on until you just have so much whizzing about your head, so much content and alternating, differing advice, that you just don't know where to even begin. And so rather than helping, it actually freezes you into not doing anything, because you just have no clue what the right thing to do is. Another way that this can kind of manifest is the opposite, that rather than not doing anything, you have this kind of shiny object syndrome, where you're flitting from one thing to the next without giving anything a chance to really work. So you suddenly decide, right, I'm gonna focus on Facebook, and then you see something saying, oh no, you should be on YouTube. Okay, abandon Facebook, onto YouTube. Oh no, I should be blogging. And so you spend the next week frantically researching blogging and looking at what you should be doing with blogging. And so it goes on, and so it goes on. You perhaps sign up for a course because you can see someone has done really well with a specific strategy or tactic, and if it works for them, well, it'll work for me too. And unfortunately, that isn't necessarily the case, because we're all different and our businesses are different. And what works for one person isn't necessarily going to be the kind of magic beans for you too. And that's why there are so many courses out there. And yes, some work and some don't. And it can be completely overwhelming. So I want to talk about that today. I wish I could show you. Let me just turn this around. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it's really snowing outside. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Can you see it? You can see my husband's rather lovely model there. He paints bottles. Anyway, there we go. It's really snowing. Wow, it's coming down. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted there by the snow. So today I'm going to talk about how you can get much more focused, how you can avoid that shiny object syndrome, and how you can get much clearer on what you should be focusing on, what you should be prioritizing for you and your business. So let's get started. So first of all, we've talked a little bit about what it looks like. So it's kind of, you're either always busy but never really getting anything done because you're just flitting from one thing to the next without really knowing what you should be focusing on. Or you are just frozen because you're just so overwhelmed with all the content that you just don't even know where to begin, and so you don't begin. So it can look like either of those two things. So I'm glancing over here because I've written tons of notes because I've got a lot to say about this. Okay, so what do you do when you're faced with that situation? What is your kind of instinct to do. It's to Google more, isn't it? What should I be doing? What should I be focusing on? You know, how do I do this? Is this the right thing to be doing? And so you Google again, and again, you're kind of given this avalanche of content, an avalanche of information from people telling you, you know, this is what worked for me, so you should do this. This is what worked for me, so you should do this. And some of that advice is going to be great, but some of it isn't. Some of it's going to work for you, and some of it isn't. And trying to sort of sift through all of that information can be really difficult, really frustrating, and can take an awfully long time. And so that is what I want to help you with in today's Facebook Live. So if this is something that you've been struggling with, then keep watching. So what should you do? Rather than Googling, what should you do? And the answer to that is very, very simple. It's to set goals and to create a plan. It's as simple as that. Now, you may be sitting there thinking, yes, but what goals? What plan? That's the thing. I don't know what goals to set. So let's break it down and make it really simple. So I've got so many notes here. I have to keep checking because I don't want to miss stuff out. So first of all, if you don't already have one, you need a mission statement. Before you start setting goals, before you start writing a plan, you need a mission statement. And essentially what that is a statement that says who you're there to serve, what you're there to help them with, and basically what your purpose is. And so you need to get really clear on that first, because if you don't have that really clear in your mind, then the rest of it is going to be very difficult. And you're not going to have the focus that you need, because you need to know who you're focusing on and what it is that you're going to help them with. That of course is a focus that's going to direct, you know, your messaging, the products and services that you're creating, and everything that you're doing. So first things first, get really clear on that. And then once you're clear on your purpose, then you can move on. And what I would say is break it down. Don't look too far ahead. So yes, when you're creating your mission statement, you're thinking big, you're thinking about the ultimate purpose for your business, and that's big and that's long lasting, and that's great. When it comes to actually goal setting and planning, actually it's much easier to bring that down into just like 12-week, 3 months ahead, because anything more than that feels a bit overwhelming, a bit distant, and a bit sort of fluffy. So I find just focus on the next 12 weeks. And the first place to start when it comes to setting goals is revenue, because this is a business, and if you're not making revenue, you don't have a business. And also, I'm assuming if you're watching this that you're probably working a 9 to 5, and you're probably wanting to get out of that 9 to 5, and in order to do so, you need to be replacing that salary through your business. So first things first, you need to think about how much revenue you need to be earning, you want to be earning, in order to quit your 9 to 5, in order to sustain the lifestyle you want, or to achieve the lifestyle that you want. How much revenue do you want to earn? So get that figure really clear in your head. In the next 12 weeks, in the next 3 months, how much do you need to earn from your business? Okay, now in order to earn revenue, you need to make sales. So the next goal that you're going to be setting after your revenue goal is a sales goal. In order to achieve that revenue, how many sales do you need to make? Now, if you don't already have products and services created, then you can do this alongside. If you already have those products and services in place, then it's simply a case of, you know, the maths. How much is my product or service worth? How much do I sell it for? And therefore, in order to achieve this revenue goal in the next 12 weeks, how many do I need to sell? Now, if you haven't got this created, you can just do that alongside. You know who you're there to serve. You've got your purpose. So it's then about doing some research and finding out what they need, what challenges they're, you know, what products and services they're going to buy from you, and pricing those up, and then being able to create that sales goal out of that. With me so far, do feel free to ask any questions if you're confused by anything, and I shall always answer them. Okay, so you've got your revenue goal, you've got your sales goal. Now, what do you need in order to make sales? Well, as I mentioned, you need a product or service. Now, if you haven't done this yet, then this can be another area where you get stuck and you get bogged down. What you need is a minimum viable product. And by that, I mean the bare bones. You just need to get started. You've heard before, I'm sure, the saying, done is better than perfect. And it is so true in this case. It's very easy, perhaps through fear or whatever, to actually get stuck and not want to put anything out there until you feel it's absolutely perfect. The problem is it probably isn't ever going to be perfect until after you've put it out there and had a chance to test it and get real feedback from, actual customers. So create something, keep it simple, and get it out there, and then you can start to get feedback. You can start to learn what works, what doesn't work, and to tweak and change it as you go until you do have that perfect product or service that you're happy with. Okay, so you've got your revenue goal, you've got your sales goal, you've got your minimum viable product that you actually need or service in order to make those sales. What else do you need to make sales? Well, you need an audience in the first place, and so in order to build an audience, you're going to want to set an audience goal. How big does your audience need to be in order to generate those sales? So and what do you need to do to create that audience? You perhaps are going to blog, or perhaps you're going to create videos, or basically it's all about creating free content. So this is your content strategy. Okay, so in order to build an audience, you need to create content of some sort. It could be blogging, it could be podcasts, it could be videos, but you need to work out what that's going to look like for you, how often you're going to do it, and what it's going to be, and all of that kind of stuff. So you'll want to create goals around that as well. So you've got your kind of audience goals. What's the size of your audience? What does that need to be? And how are you going to create that audience, and what will that look like? So I hope you're still with me. Hope this is still making sense. Okay, and also as part of your audience building goals, you want a website. There's a lot of kind of argument back and forth over whether a website is necessary for business, and there will be those who'll say, no, I built a business quite easily on Instagram or on Facebook. I will always argue that yes, you need a website, because at the end of the day, your website is yours. Facebook could change their algorithm, Instagram could change their algorithm, and suddenly all the work you've put in is lost. If you have your own website, that is yours. It's also your base, and it's it's where people will go to check that you're credible. There's all sorts of really great reasons that you should have a website. So I would definitely say make that one of your priorities. If you don't have a website yet, then you want to create a goal around that as well, and make that one of your priorities to focus on. So audience building, you've got the size of your audience, you'll need a website, you'll need to decide what content you're going to create in order to attract that audience, and then you'll also need to think about how you're going to promote that content. So that's going to be largely down to social media. You'll need to then think about what that's going to look like. What channel or channels do you want to focus on, and how's that going to work? How often are you going to post? Now, a big thing here is to keep it simple. This is where that shiny object syndrome comes in again, is where you want to be everywhere. You've got people telling you should be on Pinterest, you should be on Instagram, you should be doing Facebook Live, you should be doing this. You should be on Twitter, get involved in Twitter chats. You can't do it all, especially when you're just getting started, because you've got a lot of other things that you need to be prioritizing too. And it's a lot of hard work. And if you start trying to be present everywhere, what you'll find is you'll get really discouraged, because you just won't have the time to create that momentum and to really build a following anywhere. So much, much better to focus on perhaps just one channel and two maximum to start with, and to create a strategy just around those channels. And that way you'll really start to see that momentum growing, and you'll really be able to put your heart and soul into it. So social media, you'll want to create goals around that. Pick your channel and set a goal around, how big you want your following to be, or perhaps how much you want your engagement to be, and think about what's important for you. And this is going to differ from person to person. And what you choose first off, you may actually then change down the line, and when you realize that actually something else is perhaps a bit more important. But the only way that you learn these things is by starting and by putting a plan together in the first place, and then going for it, and then measuring your success, measuring your performance against those goals, against that plan, and then tweaking and realizing, oh, actually, Perhaps the number of my likes isn't that important. It's more about the number of people actually engaging with my posts that I want to focus on. And you'll learn that as you go, and you'll get a feel for what actually is the more important and the more significant numbers for you and your business. Okay, so we've got our revenue goal, we've got our sales goal. You want your minimum viable product so you can make those sales or service. You've got your audience goal, and then you've got your content strategy. That's how you're going to create that audience, that content that you're going to create to attract them. So whether you're going to blog, whether you're going to podcast, whether you're going to create videos. You've got your content promotion goal. So that's going to be around your social media, the channel that you're going to use, and the strategy, the number of times you're going to post, the types of posts you're going to create, and that kind of stuff. Okay, and then the last thing that you need in order to make sales, once you've got your audience, is leads. And by leads, what I'm talking about is an email list. An email list is by far the easiest and most powerful way to make sales. And we're keeping things simple here. Yes, there's loads of other ways you can make sales through webinars and through this, that, and the other. But actually, most of those ways you need an email list in the first place to do it, or to make it really powerful. So another goal that you're going to want to set yourself is leads, the number of people, subscribers you're getting onto your email list. And if you don't have an email list set up yet, then that will be something to add into your plan and to focus on and to prioritize. Okay, so those are the key things when you're just starting out that you should really be focusing on. I'll run through them one more time. So first of all, you want to set yourself a revenue goal, because everything else that you're doing is going to be leading towards that revenue goal. And we're talking about revenue goal for the next 12 weeks. So nothing too overwhelming. Just how much do I want to earn over the next 12 weeks? And then you're going to create your sales goal. So in order to earn that revenue, how many sales do I need to make? And at that stage, that's a really good test for how realistic your revenue goal is, because actually, if you've set yourself a revenue goal of, say, I don't know, £10,000 in the next 12 weeks, but you're selling, the only product that you have at the moment is 50p, then potentially that's not going to be a realistic revenue goal unless you already have a massive audience. So at that point, it gives you a chance to just sort of test those numbers against each other and sense check them and make sure that they are realistic. Okay, so you've got your revenue goal, you've got your sales goal, you've got your minimum viable product or service that you can actually sell. Then you've got your audience goal. In order to make sales and to sell that product or service, you need an audience to sell to. And to get an audience, you need to be creating content of some sort. So that's going to be your blog posts or videos or podcasts. So you'll be setting goals around that. And then, of course, you need to be promoting that content, which is the social media side that we talked about. And then you'll be needing to get people onto your email list. And it's that small commitment that they make when they give you their email address that turns them from just your audience into a lead. It's someone who's raised their hand and said, I like what I see, I'm interested in knowing more. And that makes them much easier to sell to, because you know that they're already interested, and you can really start to deepen that relationship with your emails. So those are the key factors that you should be really focusing on. Those are the real foundations that you need in place in order to build a strong business and to start to get that momentum that you need. Now, this is all well and good in practice, but I also want to leave you with some tips on how to avoid that shiny object syndrome as you go, because it's all well and good to say, right, I'm going to create a plan, I'm going to set goals. But then I know how easy it is when you sit down and immediately actually everything goes out in the window, because you see a blog post about such and such that tells you that you must be doing this, and you think, oh, well, that's not part of my plan, maybe I should change it, and maybe I should add this in. And suddenly you're doing exactly what you did before, and you're flitting about and you're doing everything, and you go off your plan and you forget about your goals and you're right back where you started. So how can you avoid that? So first of all, keep it simple. Don't make things overcomplicated, especially when you're just starting out. Keep it as simple as possible. So like I mentioned before, just focus on one social media channel, just focus on one form of content. Don't push yourself to create content too regularly. You know, some people trying there desperately to get a blog post out every single day. You know, if that's too much for you, don't do it. Do what's manageable, keep it simple, keep it doable, and don't overwhelm yourself with too much to do. So that's a really big one, because it's the second you start to feel overwhelmed that you actually start to look for ways out of it, and then you're actually looking for more content and actually getting more overwhelmed. So keep it simple. The second tip for avoiding shiny object syndrome is to limit the actual content consumption, that you do, and this is both time, that limit the amount of time that you give over to consuming content, but also limit the people whose content you consume. When I first started out with this business, I spent hours a day reading blog posts and listening to podcasts and signing up for freebies, free guides for this and checklists for that and videos for this. I spent so much time, so many different people. Gosh, the lighting's awful, isn't it? Sorry, I look a bit like a ghost. Anyway, never mind. And I didn't get anywhere because I was spending my whole time consuming all this content, and some of it was good and some of it was rubbish. And actually, much better off to find the people that you really like, to find the people that you kind of respect, and that whose content you find really helpful, and stick to those people, you know, sort of 2, 3, probably max for the time being, and then limit the time that you do it. You know, perhaps just give yourself half an hour a day, or, you know, one afternoon a week, perhaps, whatever works best for you. And then don't let yourself get drawn into content consumption during those other times, because then you can really focus on doing rather than consuming. And that's so important. That's what gets you out of shiny object syndrome and into action and into progress. And then the last, there's 2 more actually. 3 is just stick to your plan. Once you've created your plan, you've done it for a reason. You then have those steps. You know what you need to prioritize. You know what you need to do to get there. So stick to that plan. Gosh, I'm going to try and, I don't know how I can, I'm just going to put the blind down for a second, because I think I'm gradually disappearing in the light so bad. Let's get this. There we go, that's better. A bit better anyway. And then the last thing to do to avoid getting distracted, losing focus, is to measure. So as you go, measure your results, measure how effective. So once you know what your Kelly, more like an angel, thank you. I'm not sure about that, but thank you. I like that. Measure your results. So you've set your your various goals, measure, and you've created a plan on how to achieve those goals. Measure how you're doing, measure what works, what doesn't work, and then you can tweak it and you can gradually improve and track those results to see, and that will keep you on track. And it will actually, the data that you get from doing that is so much more valuable than anything you're going to find on Google, because anything out there is based on someone else's results. It's based on what they've done. And that's going to be different. It's different for everyone. So the most valuable data that you can consume for your own business is the data that you created yourself. So measure your results, track them, look at what they mean, and take action based on those results. And that's what's going to make a real impact for you and your business. So I hope you found that helpful. And like I say, if you've got any questions, do pop them below. I'll always answer them. And I will just remind you again that if you are interested in working with me one-to-one for your own business breakthrough, whether your blocker is planning, prioritizing, or something else, then you can book your free discovery call, and I'll put the link in the description of this Facebook Live. And I will see you again tomorrow, where we're talking about mindset. Let me just check. Yes, so tomorrow we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome, another big blocker, and how you can get past that. So look forward to chatting to you then, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.